everyone. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Thank you for joining us. We're excited about today's topic, and it's going to be some stuff that you probably didn't know. It's some of the latest intel on this football team and what you should expect going into fall camp. Before we talk about that, we want to make sure that you join Inside Texas today. We're running a flash sale, $1 until 8:30. Holy moly, that's a good deal. You guys need to jump on that. That's new members only. If you're an old member, you got to pay that exorbitant, huge rate that you pay gladly every month for amazing info and great conversation. Hey, y'all come join us. It's honestly the best place to be for Texas sports and Texas content. It's where Ian and I write. And then, of course, we want you to like and subscribe this here channel. We love you as our listeners and viewers. And then what we really need you to do, what I really need you to do, is go check out the 2025 Longhorn Football Prospectus, Thinking Texas Football. It's out, y'all. It is time. This is the 13th annual. I've been writing this thing since 2013. I'm really excited about the product. It's fantastic. It is the ultimate in-depth analysis of the Texas Longhorns, all of our season opponents, and all the rest of the SEC. I wrote up blurbs on every SEC team, not just the ones we play. And there's a ton of other bonus content, but it's going to be an analysis of every player, every unit, every position, every unit, or every squad, I should say. And then it's got a bunch of other bonus content. There's NFL draft data. There's a great recruiting write-up from Eric Naline. There's just a ton of stuff. Over 61,000 words, 150-something printed pages. With all due respect to the other periodicals, if you're a Texas fan, if you're an SEC fan, this is the preview that you can't be without. You can buy it at Amazon for the print copy, or you can go to Smashwords or Apple for e-versions. All of that info and all the links will be in the description. You click below there here on the deep dive, and you'll have all that info, and you can have this in your hands very quickly. All right, Ian, what's going on, man? You ready to talk about some deep intel?
Yeah, all the deepest intel. I've been trying to work on book number 2 this summer, but I have not been able to get myself to hit the grind and really get it done.
Is this going to be the sequel to Flyover Football?
No, I mean, that was mostly about the Big 12, and I'm not shan't be writing about the Big 12 again, I don't think. Yeah. So it's more of like a trying to organize and collect my various football theories into a format that is pleasing to a reader. I was going to just collect all these columns that are already written, and then you start rereading them, and you're like, no, I can do so much better than this. You start to edit, and you're like, I should just rewrite all of it.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes. All right, well, here's how it goes on this show. We've got 5 players, Ian, that we think are going to break out or have the potential to break out in fall camp and earn starting positions or at least major job shares within the construct of their respective unit. So
thanks to intel.
That's right.
You can get on Inside Texas.
This is the deepest intel. And this is from my book, Thinking Texas Football. There's a bunch of stuff like this. This is just a taste, ladies and gentlemen. So you ready to talk about our first player?
Let's do it. Who's the first player?
Our esteemed producer is loading it up. It's defensive tackle Murad Watson. So he is a New Jersey native. He played at Syracuse. He was a freshman All-American at Syracuse. He was really the bright spot in a pretty bad Syracuse defense. And his film looked great. You and I both went and looked at it sort of independently and came to similar conclusions, I think. And I think what people may not fully get, and again, this is all contingent on their performance in August in their fall camp. I think he's going to start for us. What do you think, Ian?
Yeah. And there's a couple of reasons for it. One is that he might be the best defensive tackle on the team. When they got LaVon Johnson, I was like, they need this guy just to fill out the 2 deep. Some of the reports on LaVon Johnson were not super exciting from the Maryland side of things. And then 8 hours later, something, they got Murad Watson. And after watching lots of mid D-tackle transfers, watching Murad Watson was so different. He's very strong for a freshman. They used him in multiple positions. clearly athletic, disruptive, consistently so. And then beyond the fact that he's probably one of the most talented defensive tackles in the program, he also fits really well with the other guy that we feel best about at Cole Brevard, right?
I think that's right. So Cole Brevard, big guy, space eater. He's going to eat double teams. He's very good against the run, which he was in Big Ten country playing for Purdue. Murad Watson, I think a little more mobile. One thing that I noticed about his film was lateral agility. He can get up and down the line of scrimmage and pursuit. Yeah, look, obviously you want your defensive tackle not to get pushed around. But the second part that's almost as important is their ability to pursue.
Yeah.
Because a lot of modern blocking schemes are built around the idea that the pursuit is not going to get there. And when you have pursuit that does get there, that's a huge benefit to your run defense. So we think Murad Watson, if he has a great, strong fall camp, as we expect, we think that 6'2", 310-pound sophomore, true sophomore, is going to be the starter with Cole Brevard. I think that's how it's going to shake out. Anything more to add on Mr. Watson, or should we go to the next guy?
Just that I would have said before Watson that Alex January probably be needed to break out for Texas to have a realistic chance at a championship.
Yep.
And now that it could be either of them, that's good. That's good news.
Yeah, and we probably think if it's a Watson-Brevard pairing, and we want to keep that together, more or less, we probably think the next pairing is January and Shaw.
It sounds like it from what we've heard of Shaw losing weight and showing how well. That's what I would guess, yeah.
Yeah, and he might be a guy that you want to play 20, 25 snaps and just get the most out of him and then put him on ice. And we've got the depth to do it. Here's a guy that's looking to put a longtime Longhorn veteran on ice out at cornerback. That's Kobe Black. I think a lot of people have Jalen Gilbo marked down as the starting corner opposite Manny Muhammad. Not so fast, my friend, in honor of the great Lee Corso. We think Kobe Black is going to have something to say about that. And that's has to do with Kobe Black, but I think that also has to do with maybe some of the areas of improvement for Jalen Gilbo. So Kobe Black has lost a little bit of weight. He's a huge corner, obviously. He was well over 200 pounds last year as a true freshman. He's in the mid-190s now, Ian, and he's decided I'm a corner. Because there was always some debate as, hey, could this guy be a safety for us? He's a big guy. Can he play corner? And he's got some safety attributes. Kobe Black has said, I'm playing corner. He's in the mid-190s. He's going into fall camp clearly looking to upend and take Jalen Gilbo's job. What do you think about Mr. Black?
I think if you're a legitimate blue chip cornerback who's actually going to prove it on the field, if you're not a starter by your sophomore year, you probably weren't what people thought you were out of high school. If it takes you more than 2 years to get really into the starting lineup as like a star talent, that's probably not the best sign, right? Like, well, you'll see guys sometimes over 4 or 5 years develop the skills and break out later, but usually corners show up more sooner than that. And Black is just a different level of athlete than Gilbo. So I think this would be huge. I don't know. I think neither of us are totally sure if Gilbo is the guy that you want out there to win a championship. And you definitely want Kobe Black to hit. So there's kind of a lot at stake in this one.
Yeah, I think there's a lot riding on the quality of Kobe Black's fall camp. He needs to stay healthy, first of all. And then secondly, he needs to show some of the maturity and some of the assignment soundness that Jalen Gilbo typically shows or typically showed at nickel. I think that's the appeal of him at corner. The downside potentially of Gilbo is something I've observed in my research, and I wrote about it in Thinking Texas Football. Jalen Gilbo started 17 or 18 games for us. He's appeared in 30-something games where he's gotten significant play. He's never forced a fumble. He's never had an interception.
Yeah.
He's not really a guy that fills up the box score. And I think that's something that we want as many of those guys out there in the secondary. Think about Jelani McDonald. Think about Derek Williams. Think about Michael Taff. Those are guys that at the end of the year, 7 PBUs, 2.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 3 interceptions. Like they have like a bunch of stuff that they did that's objective and demonstrable that says, hey, I turned the football game when I came in there like a missile, put my helmet on somebody, and he coughed up the ball, and we recovered it on their 18-yard line, right? We just haven't gotten that sort of playmaking out of Jalen Gilbo.
Yeah, it just doesn't quite have the processing reaction time, it seems like, to consistently make plays on the ball.
You know a guy who's got amazing processing and reaction time?
I do.
We'll say his name.
Gabe Winslow.
Gabe Winslow. That's right. He is the other member of this elite that we're talking about heading into fall camp. Thing is, Gabe doesn't have to prove anything in fall camp. He's already proven it. Over 20 years in the industry, he's fantastic at what he does. Every time I talk to the guy, he's on some freaking reward trip that he won for being a top agent in the state of Texas. And as I've said, if you're a top agent in the state of Texas, you're a top agent in these United States, ladies and gentlemen. You can reach Gabe at 832-557-1095. Former National Merit Scholar. He's got a law degree. Really, really sharp guy. Hey, not trying to give you financial advice. I'm kind of giving you a financial prompting, but I'm not want to give you a specific financial advice, which is interest rates ticking down of late. 3-month lows recently. You might be surprised about what Gabe can structure and what different organizations that he is privy to that he can tap into, where he can get you refied into a much more favorable situation. They say marry the house, date the rate. For some of you, it's time to break up your rate. Give Gabe a call. 832-557-1095. All right.
Some of those rates that people signed on for in the last couple of years on their house.
No good.
Not good.
We can do better. All right. Can we do better at running back? That's the big question. Fan favorite Trey Wisner earned a lot of our respect and admiration for him stepping up and carrying the load for injuries, which racked the running back room, and also inconsistency, right? He was the guy that said, hey, I can carry the load, and he did the best he could. I think Quintravion would do better on a more limited touch count, and I think we need to move some of those other carries to someone else. Running back Christian Clark might be that guy. Here's why he's on this list, and it's not Cedric Baxter or Jarek Gibson, and it could be. We'll see in the fall. When you're reading optimistic reports on Inside Texas about his recovery, Ian, these are not just like, yay, he's recovered well, we're proud of him. It's like, hey, Christian Clark's a guy, and it's like the injury never happened.
Yeah. The best thing he had going for him out of high school was just that pure movement ability. And when we broke down what makes a great running back like a week or two ago, we talked about guys that have the lateral agility to threaten multiple areas from the backfield, and that is Clark to a T. He can jump cut, he can bounce outside, probably better than anyone else on the roster, right? I don't know if it's even close. I haven't seen the freshman yet. I don't know if his ability to get low and go straight is quite where they want it to be. But I don't think there's another. He's probably the best chance at a game-changing player here, right?
Yeah, I think that's true. And so we're promising intel here. The intel I've gotten, and this is inferential from people who are medical professionals. They think his tear might have been partial rather than full. And that had some implications for his recovery. It's still an amazing recovery because historically, Ian, that injury for running backs, it's over. You might play a couple more years at a reduced rate, but you're not going to be the same guy. And what's particularly terrible about that injury for Clark is his strength is his ability to jump cut, which is how you tear your Achilles in the first place, right? It's a guy my age trying to play pickup basketball and lock someone down, and your mind tells your body to move in a certain way, and your body goes, nah, we're not doing that anymore. But what I'm hearing is that Clark looks really good, and he's up about 210 pounds. He may even gain a little bit more weight from there. He might even trim up a little bit in fall camp just because of the heat. But I think he represents a very different option from Quintravion.
Yeah. Baxter is definitely the guy they wish would be good to go, but I just don't know.
Yeah, the thought on Baxter is he's up in the high 220s, maybe even 230, which is
Yeah,
great. So he used his time injured well, which is he went and lifted and did what he could, ate some food, lifted weights, and put on some weight. I think that's going to really help him. It's going to help him make him more durable as well. Because when you're a tall running back and you kind of run a little bit upright, you're going to take a lot of shots on your thighs, on your knees, like your midsection, and you just kind of need to build some armor. You just need to build more muscle and more weight. In ancient Rome, gladiators, they kind of were reading the sources. I was very interested to read that gladiators usually weren't like super cut dudes. They kind of look like Fedor Emelianenko if you follow MMA, like
yeah,
fit guy, but they got a little fat on them.
yeah.
Because the idea is you want to be able to withstand a visceral wound and not be have it cut into stuff that matters. So kind of similar deal with running backs.
A lot of beans, as I understand.
A lot of beans, a lot of beans. You wouldn't want to sleep in the gladiator barracks at night, Ian.
Yeah, no.
That's a no-go zone. Here's a guy that's been a sleeper for too long for the University of Texas.
Uh,
Colton Vasek.
yeah.
This is a guy I'm in love with. And I talk
Oh,
about this. I write about him in my preview. He's one of these guys. He's a legitimate 6'5", but he's so bendy and he can level change that he can get all the advantages of being long on a football field. But he also, when he needs to get small and he needs to get compact, he can do that because he's got that flexibility in his hips and his ankles. He can level change. And unfortunately, the change he's most experienced at Texas is injury. He's had some sort of malady ever since he arrived at Texas, and he's always missing practice or off seasons. He's got a cast or he's got something going on for 3 years. The ability level is very high. This is the first time that he's going into a fall camp where he doesn't have any nicks, cuts, injuries. He's not wearing any casts, braces, supports. Ian, what are your thoughts on Colton Vasek?
he was considered to be the more likely out of him and Burke. I think we all liked Burke. Burke has basically been what we hoped he would be. But Vasek was the one that was like, that's the dude that could be super special. And they were on the team. They were calling him Baby Bosa for his first
Yeah.
couple of years because they're like, he's like Bosa. He has that level of ability or potential. He actually, when we saw him in the semifinal against Ohio State, he had a number of plays that looked good. And I believe he was playing injured in that game. In the spring roster, I noted that he was all the way down to like 230 something. I would like to see that number back at 250, 260. But could be special. I don't know. I mean, they don't even need him. If he were to become dominant this season, if he were to just flip a switch in fall camp and be like a top 3 round pass rusher off the edge, what teams even do with Texas?
Run the ball? I don't know.
Yeah, run the ball. Run
Uh,
the ball on 3rd and 9.
we could have added something here. Colton Vasek versus the world, and here's what I mean. His natural position is probably Colin Simmons' position. All right, fine. You can still play him opposite Simmons, right? You can do that for snaps. But you got Ethan Burke, who's a very reliable guy. You've got Zena Umeozulu, who just keeps adding size and strength and weight and ability. We always knew he had the frame and stuff to do that. But he's really competing, Ian, with a bunch of linebackers for edge snaps because we have Brad Spence, we have Trey Moore, and we have Anthony Hill, who are all really good blitzers, all very good guys who could play edge. I mean, if you ask Brad Spence, hey, go play Buck, go play Jack, he'd be fine.
Yeah.
Like he would not look out of place, or you'd be like, oh, yeah, that guy's a good player. So Colton Vasek is not just competing for snaps opposite Colin Simmons and in relief of Colin Simmons. He's competing with all the other edges, and he's competing with these linebackers. So he really does more than any of the guys we've listed. He's going to need to bring it because he's getting battled from all comers and all sides and all positions. But I do think he's a guy that can help us. I think a real edge for this team, no pun intended, would be on pretty clear passing downs or passing situations. Colin Simmons on one side, Vosick on the other, and you spin Burke down to one of the DT spots. And then you have Trey Moore out there, Anthony Hill, possibly even Brad Spence as well, all blitzing or dropping into zones and just creating complete mayhem for that poor offensive line.
It'd be really cool if they could play like without a nose even.
Yeah.
And just play like 5 linebackers and then all defensive backs or something.
Yeah, that would be great. Would that be a game plan you'd want to run against like John Mateer? Would you be too worried about quarterback draw, stuff like that?
Yeah, not on first down.
Yeah.
But for sure, in 3rd and long, absolutely. Me and Connor were talking a little bit about that earlier. I would spy him. They have like maybe 3 guys that if they're spying him,
yeah,
he's not going to get away from him. He's first step quick, but he can't run away from. Maybe he can run away from Vosick. I don't know. He cannot run away from Moore. He cannot run away from Simmons. He cannot run away from Hill. It's a scary game for the Sooners.
Interesting. We hope so. All right, let's talk about a guy who had a very interesting spring and off season, in both the positive sense of that word and more the Chinese old saying of "May you live in interesting times" sense.
That's right.
Mr. Nick Brooks. So this young man from Georgia came in and immediately in the spring started turning heads. Absolutely revelatory. Just blown away by his strength and much better feet and ability to stay in front of people than they had anticipated. He's every bit of 340, Ian, and he's just kind of a man-child. Had a little off-season, setback, but we're going to work through that. I think it did earn him a spot in the doghouse, but that's good. He has a chance to work out of it. But his ability level is high. So, Ian, I think the assumption is that everyone thinks that Brandon Baker's got right tackle down on lock. He might, unless Nick Brooks comes in and blows away everyone in August and plays and even increases his level of play from what he saw in the spring. He's got very unique traits, and he's got a level of physicality that I think is very impressive for a true freshman. What are your thoughts on Mr. Brooks?
I found a video of him in high school where I was trying to see if I could find like a full game to see how he played. Maybe the huddle was hard to come by. I don't remember. And it was one of those like high school highlights where the cameras at like field level and there's like people in each other's ways. But it was actually kind of good for Brooks because it was kind of up close. And I got to watch how he moved against pass rush in Georgia, dudes that looked like they were not, it wasn't facing Anderson out there, right? And I was shocked by how easily he moved back in the kick step.
Yeah.
And then I argued with Justin for the rest of the year about whether or not he was actually a tackle, which it looks like I'm going to win that argument decisively. If he's already the 3rd offensive tackle, that's really what matters here is me being right and whoever else being wrong.
You, in the space of a few sentences, were able to insult my alma mater, and you were able to count coup against Justin Wells on recruiting opinion. So this has just made your day. All we need now is a breaking news that John Mateer is ineligible or something, and Ian's just going to be glowing the rest of the day. So I do agree about that with Nick Brooks. The other thought is our offensive line has some interplay between the different positions, meaning if Nick Brooks is a viable right tackle, now you've got Brandon Baker able to play other positions. And you might use him to replace someone. Say if Nato Umeozulu, the light's not fully on in terms of assignments, maybe that's a guy, maybe you slide down Baker to right guard. Or maybe he's your utility offensive lineman. Or maybe he just split snaps with Brooks. Here's the interesting question, though. If Brooks has an amazing August, great fall camp, Do you feel confident running him out there against Ohio State and Columbus? Just the environment, not even just the players he's going to be going against. And he's going to be going against some pretty good players.
Yikes. No. No, I do not.
Yeah.
Maybe later in the year, after he's gotten his feet wet against like some exotic blitz package that UTEP drew up. I don't want round one against Ohio State.
Yeah.
They got athletes there. I don't even know if they have edges that they are sure are going to be great, but they probably do.
Well, so I just wrote my book and did a deep dive on Ohio State. They brought in a guy from North Carolina named Bo Atkinson, who is he's basically Ethan Burke, maybe a little stronger, maybe a little more explosive. He's 6'6", 260. He was sort of a bright spot on North Carolina's defense last year. He had 7.5 sacks, bunch of pressures. He's very long. He's basically Ethan Burke. And I think he's going to be starting at one of their edge spots. So that is a guy that if you put out someone there who's a little nervous and their hand is shaking in their stance right before the snap, that's a guy that he's good enough to feast on you a little bit. But Nick Brooks might just be one of those guys. You just don't know. He might be one of those guys that just trots out there and plays ball, and he doesn't care about the environment. He doesn't care about anything. He just thinks it's another game. So
they also spun down a 5-star linebacker, CJ Hicks.
Yeah, CJ Hicks is he's their off-speed pitch guy. They want to bring him in just to rush the passer. But he's 230.
Yeah.
So they're not going to be playing him down to down. If they do, with their defensive tackle deficit on top of that, they're going to get mashed on a little bit. So I don't think they're going to allow that to happen.
Well, I have this theory that they may try to play 3 down instead, and then have him a little more out there. Whoever plays the edge.
Yeah,
I don't know if Larry Johnson will sign up on that though. So
well, that's the other thing is the Ohio State deep state. How much are they going to be fighting with Matt Patricia? But Patricia, obviously, he's the Patriot way, which is you make specific crafted game plans for big games for big opponents. You don't just do what you do. And he's very comfortable running 3-man fronts or 4-man fronts. The other thing that lends credence to that, Ian, is they like 3 other linebackers. Peyton Pierce, the Texas kid from Lovejoy, he's one of these like tackling machine guys that just has a nose for the ball. And so they might play him in some sets with the other 2 linebackers who are just both big physical blitzers like Cody Simon was last year. The other one is Sonny Styles.
Yeah, Styles came along a long ways.
That's right.
The Lovejoy kid, huh? He looks like a Lovejoy kid on his roster.
Yeah, I mean, he's like 220, 225, but he's just one of these guys that just finds the ball, and he was like all the rave of Buckeye spring practice. So something to keep in mind there as we tangent in only the way that the deep dive can. But that's the intel. I think a lot of people think that some of these starting jobs are written in stone because you're reading depth charts of preview magazines, not mine, which have these things in stone, or you're reading depth charts of preview magazines that have Xavier Filsaime starting at safety for Texas.
Somebody do that?
Huh?
That's so funny.
So he has some other offenses in there as well. But hey, all I'm saying is buying a preview magazine from the people who actually know the program has some value. This hopefully had some value to all of you. Again, this is all contingent on all these folks having really good fall camps and really impressing in August. But just understand that nothing is written in ink at the University of Texas. You got to earn your job. And some of these folks will have a real shot at being starters. Ian, anything you want to add before we head out?
No, we can save any other insights for the rest of this offseason. We got 2 months till Ohio State fall.
We got to pace ourselves.
We got one of those months. We'll get the inside scoop from the practices. That'll be great. But until then, we got to take it easy.
And I know the place you can get that inside scoop. Inside Texas. Remember that flash sale, $1 until August 30th, new members only. Phenomenal deal. Why wouldn't you spend $1 American to go be part of the best Longhorn conversation on the internet? And if you want the best damn preview of the Texas Longhorns, the SEC, and all of our non-con opponents, this is the where to go. Go check the link in the description. It's right below here. And buy the 2025 Longhorn Football Prospectus. You will not regret it. Thanks, y'all. Thanks for deep diving. Hook 'em.